Our last speaker before we have a break is Briony Rogers. She's going to be next person up. She's a research fellow at the Cooperative Research Centre for Water-Sensitive Cities. Continuing on this theme of water-sensitive urban design, what does it mean to use water more effectively in cities? Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't heard of a water-sensitive city or what it means to be one before. And when Briony told me, my immediate question to her was, well, is Sydney such a city? She said, no, it's not yet. Natural question to follow up would be, well, should it be? It was interesting because she looked at me in a sense that kind of, through her eyes, just very briefly said, what are you, an idiot? Of course it needs to be. However, she was much more polite when she said, yes, I think that is a good idea. She's going to come up and talk to us about it. And if you think that's a significant challenge, trying to move our politicians in the direction of making Sydney such a big place, a water-sensitive city, I can tell you Briony's actually up for that challenge. How do I know she is? Because she is one of the few people on this earth who is, in a previous life, both a civil engineer and a social scientist. For those of you who are not in the know, those two things don't get on particularly well. In fact, they get on as well as, let's say, oil and water, or politicians and the truth. Something like that. By the way, that's one of the bits which is interactive. If you laugh, we finish early. You know? Yeah, and try and make it sincere, thank you. But you know what, I'll take what I can get. Please welcome Briony up on stage.
Great. I'm going to start with the idea of human needs. Often when we talk about sustainability and sustainable development, the idea of needs comes into play. So the ability for us to meet our needs now and for our future generations. So when we think about water systems, we need to reflect on what all these gadgets, these technologies, these infrastructures, what needs are they meeting? So obviously we have our basic needs. We need to have water that we can drink and for all the other things that we use water for in the house. We need to have water infrastructure systems that, look after us from a public health perspective, so our sewage systems. We also have the need to be protected from floods, so we've got to have really good, effective drainage systems. But we also have higher order needs that are intimately connected with water. So water in the landscape, having beautiful rivers, beautiful creeks, beautiful waterscapes that enhance the beauty of our city. We like to swim, we like to play, we like to, do all kinds of different things in the water itself. We even have potentially cultural or spiritual connections with water. Even just the feeling of rain when it's been a hot, humid day and finally you get that downpour. It's something that's really quite a special connection and something that we don't often think about when we talk about our water needs. Again, something that's maybe not always as obvious, but water is really important from enhancing our public space. We need to have water available to create the green spaces that make a city vibrant and cool. In the Millennium Drought, a lot of our sports grounds were too dry for people to play on, and that meant that these really critical social community infrastructures were no longer part of our space. That was a big problem, and it started to reinforce this idea about water and livability going hand in hand. Water for our trees, healthy waterways. There's a whole lot of things that actually connect water, people, and the landscape in really intimate and fundamental ways. We also know that there's lots of challenges. So Amanda and the other previous speakers have touched on it. We've got these extremes that are challenging the reliability of these water systems and our ability to meet all these different needs. We're getting more and more urbanised. So as we start to put concrete across our cities, whether densifying or sprawling, we're starting to lose these green spaces and these really important amenities. Our waterways are degrading. It's getting really hot. Amanda mentioned the Black Saturday bushfires, where hundreds of people died in the bushfires. On that same day, more people actually died from heat-related illness and death. So it's a really critical part of our survival is managing this heat. When we traditionally manage our water, we're really good at managing the water supply, the sewage, and the drainage aspects. But of course, we've got all these other things that we really value. So this is where the idea of water-sensitive cities comes into it. Understanding that the water and people and the landscape are fundamentally linked And if we want to manage our water systems in a way that supports livability and sustainability and productivity and resilience, we need to rethink how we manage water. So my organisation is the Cooperative Research Centre for Water Sensitive Cities. It's funded by the Australian Government and about 85 partners from around Australia. So local governments, central agencies, water utilities, many of the speakers today are part of this research centre. And we're trying to think about innovative solutions about connecting water, landscape and people. So there's three principles that are underpinning this idea of a water-sensitive city. First, cities as a water supply catchment. More rain falls over Sydney's footprint than is consumed every day. So that's a huge resource of stormwater that can be used in many of the ways that we've been talking about, and also all the wastewater that's flowing under our our city. We can save a lot of energy and a lot of chemicals and a lot of cost if we start to reuse that as part of the city footprint. Cities providing ecosystem services. So normally when we urbanise somewhere, we're degrading the environment, we're putting concrete there. Actually, if we rethink how we design and plan and manage our water systems and the landscape hand in hand, we can actually have cities providing and enhancing the environment. Green and blue corridors, biodiversity, having healthy waterways and green infrastructure that not only does an engineering task, but also has an important role in improving the ecosystem health. And then finally, cities comprising water-sensitive communities. People are part of this. As soon as we talk about cities and local people and local place, then what people identify with and connect with, that's got to be part of the water solutions. And we need people's behaviours to reflect a water-sensitive city. So how do all these things come together, these different principles? I'm going to show you a video now that shows how we've been thinking about it coming together in an urban space. So bioretention walls that take water from sinks and reuse it, treat it down a beautiful green living wall, but then recycle it so that same water can then be used to flush the toilets. Multiple benefits. Having urban streams enhancing the biodiversity. So instead of running our drainage water down in concrete pipes under the ground, daylighting those streams so they not only provide those ecosystem services, but also provide amenity and comfort and a cooling ability to try and reduce those urban heat temperatures in hot days. And also the opportunity for art to be part of it. Water as a beautiful, aesthetic and identifying feature of the city. Stormwater biofiltration, so taking the pollution out of stormwater when it picks it up from running over those roads, and then having the green infrastructure provide that urban microclimate. Urban orchards, so community gardens, urban farms. We have a whole lot of resources in our wastewater, nutrients that we spend a lot of energy and money on removing them at wastewater treatment plants, but actually we need those nutrients to fertilise our crops. So if we have urban farms, we can start using that in a more resourceful way to have productive landscapes. And also the energy and water nexus, taking the energy that's in wastewater and using it in a positive way. So these are all really local solutions. They're local to the people, they're local to the landscape, and they have to be delivered at this decentralised scale, but precinct by precinct, cities are going to develop. Every 50 years, each precinct gets redeveloped as we have to renew our assets, manage them, upgrade them. If we start to do that in a water-sensitive way, slowly over time, we'll be able to transform our cities to be these water-sensitive cities where we get multiple benefits from everything that we do from a water, landscape, and people perspective. Thanks.